Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 18, text 40. Tat asti prithvyam va
न तदस्ति पृथ्वीव्यां
videveshu va puna
वा देवी देवेषु वा पुनः
sattvam prakriti jairmuktam
सत्वं प्रकृति जयमुक्तं
yad evi syatribir gune.
यदेवी स्यात्रिभिर्गुणे। इस लोक में, स्वर्ग लोकों में या देवताओं के मध्य में कोई भी ऐसा व्यक्ति विद्यमान नहीं है जो प्रकृति के 3 गुणों से मुक्त हो। भगवान इस श्लोक में समग्र ब्रह्मांड में प्रकृति के 3 गुणों के प्रभाव का संक्षिप्त विवरण दे रहे हैं।
So Krishna has been speaking about the 3 modes of material nature. And now Krishna is saying that everyone, whether they be on the earthly planet or they are in the higher planets, or they are the demigods, everyone, or even the lower planets for that matter, everyone who's in the material world is controlled by the modes of nature. We are all influenced by the modes of nature in this material world. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Visham,
ब्राह्मण शक्तिय विशाम
Shudranam cha parantapa,
शूद्राणाम च परन्तप
Karmani pravibhaktani,
कर्माणि प्रभिभक्तानि
Swabhava prabhaver gune.
स्वभाव प्रभवैगुणः। हे परंतप ब्राह्मणों, क्षत्रियों, वैश्यों तथा शूद्रों में प्रकृति के गुणों के अनुसार उत्पन्न उनके स्वभाव द्वारा भेद किए जाते हैं।
So Krishna is telling here, it's not based on birth. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are not based on birth, but it is based on the qualities, depending on the modes of nature. That's why Krishna made this Varna Sharma system, based on the modes of nature that we have. Because based on the modes, then we are inclined to act in a particular way under the influence of the modes. So we can see it's not on birth, but of the nature, which is influenced by the modes. Shamo tamas tapa shaucham,
शमो दमः तपः शौचम
shantir arjavam evacha,
शांति आर्जवनम एव च
jnanam vijnanam astikyam,
ज्ञानम विज्ञानम आस्तिक्यम
brahma karma swabhavajam.
ब्रह्म कर्म स्वभावजम। शांति प्रियता, आत्म संयम, तपस्या, पवित्रता, सहिष्णुता, सत्यनिष्ठा, ज्ञान, विज्ञान तथा धार्मिकता, ये सारे स्वाभाविक गुण हैं जिनके द्वारा ब्राह्मण कर्म करते हैं।
So here Krishna is speaking about the qualities in the mode of goodness. So the qualities of the Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas are in the mode of goodness. So qualities in the mode of goodness, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Regarding tolerance, Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastakam says in the third verse of the Shikshastakam prayers that one should be more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, giving all respect to others and not expecting anything in return for ourselves. So, Shauryam Tejo Dhritirdakshyam
शौर्यं तेजगृतीताक्ष्यं
Yuddhe Chapi Apalayanam
युद्धे च अपि अपालयानं
Dhanam Ishvara Bhavascha
दानम् ईश्वरभाव च
Shatram Karma Swabhavajam.
शास्त्रं कर्म स्वभावजं वीरता शक्ति संकल्प दक्षता युद्ध में धैर्य उदारता तथा नेतृत्व ये क्षत्रियों के स्वाभाविक गुण हैं.
So the Shatriyas, they are more under influence of passion. So the modes of passion, they bring about heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership. So the Kshatriyas, they are influenced by these modes. And these are the qualities of the modes of passion, qualities of the Kshatriyas. Shri Gorakshya Vanichyam
कृषि गौरक्ष्य वाणिज्यम
Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam
वैश्य कर्म स्वभावजम
Paricharyatmakam Karma
परिचर्यात्मकम कर्म
Shudrasyapi Swabhavajam.
शूद्रस्य अपि स्वभावजम. कृषि करना गोरक्षा तथा व्यापार वैश्यों के स्वाभाविक कर्म है और शूद्रों का कर्म श्रम तथा अन्यों की सेवा करना है.
So the Vaishyas, their qualities, their duties, farming, cow protection, and business. And the Shudras, it's labor and service to all the other members of society, the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas. So these divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, are divided based on the qualities that one has. It's not based on birth. It's based on the qualities. So here, yeah. Swe swe karmani abhirata
स्वे स्वे कर्मणि अभिरतः
samsiddhim labate nara
संसिद्धिं लभ्यते नरः
swakarmanyarata siddhim
स्वकर्म निरतः सिद्धिं
yatha vindat yatha vindati takshrinu.
यथा विदन्ति तत शृणु. अपने अपने कर्म के गुणों का पालन करते हुए प्रत्येक व्यक्ति सिद्धि को प्राप्त हो सकता है. अब तुम मुझसे सुनो कि यह किस प्रकार किया जा सकता है.
So Krishna is telling Arjuna in this verse, by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Because we always want to try to, oh, the other person has got success in something else. Let me try to become like that. No, but we have to see what are the qualities we have and work according to those qualities. to become perfect. Yata pravritir bhutanam
यतः प्रवृत्ति भूतानां
yena sarvam idam tatam
येन सर्वम् इदं ततं
swakarmana tam abhyarchya
स्वकर्मणा तम् अभ्यस्य
siddhim vindati manava.
सिद्धिं विनन्दति मानः जो सभी प्राणियों का उद्गम है और सर्वव्यापी है, उस भगवान की उपासना करके मनुष्य अपना कर्म करते हुए पूर्णतया प्राप्त कर सकता है। जैसे कि 15वें अध्याय में बताया जा चुका है, सारे जीव परमेश्वर के भिन्नांश हैं। इस प्रकार परमेश्वर ही सभी जीवों की आदि उत्स है। वेदांत सूत्र में इसकी पुष्टि हुई है, जन्माधस्य यतः। अतः परमेश्वर प्रत्येक जीव के जीवन के उद्गम है। जैसा कि भगवत गीता के 7वें अध्याय में कहा गया है, परमेश्वर अपनी परा तथा अपरा इन दो शक्तियों के द्वारा सर्वव्यापी है। अतः मनुष्य को चाहिए कि उनकी शक्तियों सहित भगवान की पूजा करे। सामान्यतः वैष्णव जन को चाहिए कि उनकी शक्तियों सहित भगवान की पूजा करे। सामान्यतः वैष्णव वजन परमेश्वर की पूजा उनकी अंतरंगा शक्ति समेत करते हैं। उनकी बाह्य रंगा शक्ति उनकी अंतरंगा शक्ति का विकृत प्रतिबिंब है। बहिरंगा शक्ति पृष्ठभूमि है, लेकिन परमेश्वर परमात्मा पूर्ण में पूर्णांश का विस्तार करके सर्वत्र स्थित है। वे सर्वत्र समस्त देवताओं, मनुष्यों, पशुओं के परमात्मा हैं। अतः मनुष्य को यह जानना चाहिए कि परमेश्वर का भिन्नांश होने के कारण उसका कर्तव्य है कि वह भगवान की सेवा करे। प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को कृष्ण भावना अमृत में भगवान की भक्ति करनी चाहिए। इस श्लोक में इसी की स्तुति की गई है। प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को सोचना चाहिए कि इंद्रियों के स्वामी ऋषिकेश द्वारा वह विशेष कर्म में प्रवृत्त किया गया है। अतः जो जिस कर्म में लगा है, उसी के फल के द्वारा भगवान श्री कृष्ण को पूजना चाहिए। यदि वह इस प्रकार से कृष्ण भावना में होकर सोचता है, तो भगवत कृपा से वह पूर्ण ज्ञान प्राप्त कर लेता है। यही जीवन की सिद्धि है। भगवान ने भगवत गीता में कहा है, तेषामः समुद्र धर्ता। परमेश्वर स्वयं ऐसे भक्त का उद्धार करते हैं। यही जीवन की सर्वोच्च सिद्धि है। कोई चाहे जिस वृत्ति परक कार्य में लगा रहे हो, यदि वह परमेश्वर की सेवा करता है तो उसे सर्वोच्च सिद्धि प्राप्त होती है।
So Krishna is saying that perform your work, but perform your work as a duty and worship the Supreme Lord, understanding our position. So Prabhupada is explaining, because here he's saying worship the Lord who's the source of all beings, who's all pervading. And if we work in such a way, we can get liberation. Worshipping God, understanding God's position, understanding our position by doing our duty, by performing our duties. So Prabhupada is explaining that in the 15th chapter, Mamai Vamsa Jiva Loke, Krishna says, God says, all these spirit souls, we are part and parcels of God. So God is the source of all of us. We are all individual souls. We are all coming from God. Vedanta Sutra says Janma Adi Asya Yata. So we exist because we are coming from God. God is the source. In 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we are hearing God has two energies. Well, God has many energies. But by these two energies, external energy and internal energy, we understand He is all pervading. How? In this material world, it's full of these material elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether. All this is the external energy. And then we, the living entities, we are the internal energies. And we both, the external energy and internal energy, belong to God. So, like this, He's all pervading because everything is belonging to Him. We are all His energy. We see the sky belongs to God. It's the external energy of God. The air is blowing, that belongs to God. It's the external energy of God. Water, external energy of God. Fire, the sun, the moon, everything, all these are the external energy of God. So around here in this material nature, we are seeing everywhere there's this external energy of God. And the living entities, we are the superior energy. So we are here in this material world, and this is how the Lord is all pervading, because both are His energies. It's not that we become God, but we are God's energies. So we say God is omnipresent. This is how He's omnipresent, by His energies. He's also the Paramatma in our heart. And He is as the Paramatma entering into every atom of the universe. That's how He's all pervading. So the Vaishnava, the devotees of God, worship God along with His energies. Worship God with the energies. The devotees understand that God has many energies, and they worship God with His energy. It is not right to think that God has no energy. God is omnipotent, we say. Omnipotent means He has many potencies, many energies, and He should be worshipped in such a way. So this external energy, this material nature, external energy is a reflection, a perverted reflection of the spiritual energy. The original energy is the spiritual energy. But to facilitate the creation of this material world, the same energy, it expands as the material energy, the external energy. Just as the realities in the spiritual world and this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Just as we heard about the tree, banyan tree, upside down banyan tree, that the roots are up and the branches are down. And where can we find such a tree? In the reflection on the bank of a river. The real tree is standing outside, and when we look at the reflection, it is perverted. It's upside down. So this external energy is a reflection of the internal energy. So the Paramatma, we just said, God in His Paramatma is entered into every atom of the universe. He's also in our hearts as the super soul, as the Paramatma. He's also in the heart of every living being. He's situated right next to the individual soul. So then Prabhupada is trying to explain us our position of every soul, that as we are part and parcel of God. God Himself is saying in 15th chapter, all the conditioned being, mamavamsa jiva bhuta jiva, mamavamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana, that all living beings are my part and parcel. God is saying that. So Srila Prabhupada is saying everyone is a part and parcel of God. And so, because we have a relation with God, we have a duty to perform towards God. We have a duty to serve God. So everyone is a part and parcel of God. So everyone should be engaged in devotional service to God in full Krishna consciousness. This is what Krishna is saying in this verse. That because every soul is part and parcel of God, each and every soul has a duty towards God. Each and every soul must therefore engage in devotional service to God. Because there is a relationship. There's a loving relationship there, eternal relationship. So then Prabhupada is going on to explain that what we should understand, that we are engaged in whatever occupational duty we are doing, whatever work we are doing, that work is given to us by God. God is also called Rishikesh, master of the senses. Our senses, we are thinking we are the master, but the senses are given to us by God. So He is the real master. And then when we are doing a particular work, there is a result of that work. And we should worship God by that result. We should worship Krishna by that result. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna should be worshipped. So whatever work we are doing, we should understand this work. I am doing this work because it is given to me by God. I'm an instrument here doing this kind of work. And so the result of this work should be offered to Krishna. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. So if one does his duty, whatever works that are given to us, we do that work, offer the result of that work to God, please God with our duty. In this way, by mercy of God, we will get complete knowledge. We will get perfection, self-realization. So understanding our relationship with God, understanding we are part and parcel of God, understanding that we have a duty to render devotional service to God, and then worshiping God with whatever social responsibility that we have, whatever is our nature, we worship God with that. Whatever here, everyone should think that he's engaged in a particular type of occupation. So whatever occupation we are doing that as a service to God, doing that for the pleasure of God, worshipping God with the result of that occupation, the result of that activity. And in this way, one gets self-realized by the mercy of God. God reveals himself. So God himself takes charge of delivering such a duty. And Prabhupada is going on to say that is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. So doing our occupation as a duty to God, worshipping God with the result of our occupation, and what we can get perfection, whatever the occupation may be. Each one of us have different occupations. So serving God with that. Understanding we are part and parcel of God. Shreyan Swadharmo Viguna.
Shivavas dharma viguna
Paradharma Swa Anushthitat.
परधर्मात् सुअनुष्ठितात्
स्वभावनियतं कर्म
स्वभावनियतं कर्म
कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्।
कुर्वन् आपनोति किल्बिषम्। अपने वृत्ति पूर्वक कार्य को करना, चाहे वह कितना ही त्रुटिपूर्ण ढंग से क्यों न किया जाए, अन्य किसी के कार्य को स्वीकार करने और अच्छी प्रकार करने की अपेक्षा अधिक श्रेष्ठ है। अपने स्वभाव के अनुसार निर्दिष्ट कर्म कभी भी पाप से प्रभावित नहीं होते। भगवद गीता में मनुष्य के वृत्ति परक कार्य धर्म का निर्देश है। जैसे कि पूर्ववर्ती श्लोकों में वर्णन हुआ है, ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य तथा शूद्र के कर्तव्य उनके विशेष प्राकृतिक गुणों, स्वभाव के द्वारा निर्दिष्ट होते हैं। किसी को दूसरे के कार्य का अनुकरण नहीं करना चाहिए। जो व्यक्ति स्वभाव से शूद्र के द्वारा किए जाने वाले कर्म के प्रति आकृष्ट हो, उसे अपने आप को झूठे ही ब्राह्मण नहीं कहना चाहिए, भले ही वह ब्राह्मण कुल में क्यों न उत्पन्न हुआ हो। इस तरह प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को चाहिए कि अपने स्वभाव के अनुसार कार्य करे। कोई भी कर्म निकृष्ट नहीं है, यदि वह परमेश्वर की सेवा के लिए किया जाए। ब्राह्मण का वृत्ति परक कार्य निश्चित रूप से सात्विक है, लेकिन यदि कोई मनुष्य स्वभाव से सात्विक नहीं है, तो उसे ब्राह्मण के वृत्ति परक कार्य धर्म का अनुकरण नहीं करना चाहिए। शास्त्रीय या प्रशासन के लिए अनेक ग्रहित बातें हैं। क्षत्रिय को शत्रुओं का वध करने के लिए हिंसक होना पड़ता है और कभी-कभी कूटनीति में झूठ भी बोलना पड़ता है। ऐसी हिंसा तथा द्वैतता राजनीतिक मामलों में चलती है, लेकिन क्षत्रिय से यह आशा नहीं की जाती कि यह अपने वृत्ति परक कर्तव्य त्याग कर ब्राह्मण के कार्य करने लगे। मनुष्य को चाहिए कि परमेश्वर को प्रसन्न करने के लिए कार्य करे। उदाहरणार्थ, अर्जुन क्षत्रिय था, वह दूसरे पक्ष से युद्ध करने से बच रहा था, लेकिन यदि ऐसा युद्ध भगवान कृष्ण के लिए करना पड़े, तो पतन से घबराने की आवश्यकता ही नहीं होनी चाहिए। कभी कभी व्यापारिक क्षेत्र में भी व्यापारी को लाभ कमाने के लिए झूठ बोलना पड़ता है। यदि वह ऐसा नहीं करे तो उसे लाभ नहीं हो सकता। कभी कभी व्यापारी करता है, अरे मेरे ग्राहक भाई, मैं आपसे कोई लाभ नहीं ले रहा, लेकिन हमें यह समझना चाहिए कि व्यापारी बिना लाभ के जीवित नहीं रह सकता। अतः इसे एक सरल झूठ समझना चाहिए। यदि व्यापारी यह कहता है कि वह कोई लाभ नहीं ले रहा है, लेकिन व्यापारी को यह नहीं सोचना चाहिए कि चूंकि वह ऐसे कार्य में लगा है जिसमें झूठ बोलना आवश्यक है, अतः उसे इस व्यवसाय वैश्य कर्म को त्याग कर ब्राह्मण की वृत्ति ग्रहण करनी चाहिए। इसकी शास्त्रों द्वारा स्तुति नहीं की गई। चाहे कोई क्षत्रिय हो, वैश्य हो या शूद्र, यदि वह इस कार्य से भगवान की सेवा करता है तो कोई आपत्ति नहीं है। कभी कभी विभिन्न यज्ञों का संपादन करते समय ब्राह्मणों को भी पशुओं की हत्या करनी होती है, क्योंकि इन अनुष्ठानों में प्रभु पशु की बलि देनी होती है। इसी कारण हत्या करनी होती है, क्योंकि इन अनुष्ठानों में पशु की बलि देनी होती है। इसी प्रकार यदि क्षत्रिय अपने कार्य में लगा रहकर शत्रु का वध करता है, तो उस पर पाप नहीं चढ़ता। तृतीय अध्याय में इन बातों की स्पष्ट एवं विस्तृत व्याख्या हो चुकी है। हर मनुष्य को यज्ञ के लिए अथवा भगवान विष्णु के लिए कार्य करना चाहिए। निजी इंद्रिय तृप्ति के लिए किया गया कोई भी कार्य बंधन का कारण है। निष्कर्ष यह निकलता कि मनुष्य को चाहिए कि अपने द्वारा अर्जित विशेष गुण के अनुसार कार्य में प्रवृत्त हो और परमेश्वर की सेवा करने के लिए ही कार्य करने का निश्चय करे।
Krishna is on to say it is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So, we have been hearing Krishna has been speaking of the duties of Brahmana, what are the duties of Shatriya, duties of Vaishya, duties of Shudra. And these duties are given not based on birth, but based on the nature, modes of nature, how we are influenced. Like resourcefulness, leadership, administration, all that is with the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas is business, finance, trading, and Brahmana is studying of scriptures, peacefulness, self-control. The Shudra is service to all others. So we need to work according to our nature. Krishna is telling us work according to nature. Don't imitate another's nature. By our nature, we are attracted to do a particular kind of work. Do that work because we will be peaceful doing that work. And then offer the result of that work to God. We should not artificially try to imitate another because, oh, the other person looks to be getting so much honor. The other person seems to be more successful than me. So let me try to imitate what they're doing. But imitation is not going to help us. It will not make us peaceful. To work according to whatever nature we have acquired, whatever is our own nature. Krishna, God is saying, work according to your own nature. There's no work which is low. Everything is needed to be done. Everything is being done as a, uh, as a service to God, needs to be done as a service to God. Like all the members of society. We may think, oh, this one is high work, this is low work, but everyone is playing an important part in society, in the smooth functioning of society. Some people are inclined to do Shatriya work, leadership work, so then they are the leaders. Some people are inclined to do study of scriptures, so then they are the ones study the scriptures and teach others about that. Some are inclined towards business, farming, finance, and then some are inclined to serve others in whatever uh, in their own occupations. So we can see that each person then adds on to society for the proper functioning of the social system. And so we need to work according our nature and work in a mood that this work I'm doing is service to God. So Prabhupada is giving the explanation that, oh, somebody's doing Brahmanical work, and so that's in the mode of goodness. But one may not be in the mode of goodness, but one may be in the mode of Kshatriya passion. But if he artificially tries to do work of a Brahmana, then there's not going to be, he's not going to find success in that. He's not going to be peaceful. He won't be finding success. So work according to the nature. Doesn't matter which modes it is. Is it goodness, passion, ignorance, or mixture of passion and ignorance? Work according to the nature. Don't imitate another person's nature thinking, oh, that is higher. Every work has its own, like here Prabhupada is giving some examples. That even like a Shatriya, he has to kill his enemies. So Brahmana sometimes also has to, before, not in Kali, before Brahmanas would chant the mantras for sacrificing the animals, so the animals would be killed. It's another thing that the animal would get a newer body or would get a human body. So it was certainly good for the animal too. But the point is that work according to nature. This is what God is telling us. This is what Krishna is saying. And worship God with the result of that work. Understand this. I'm doing this as a service to God. Arjuna. Arjuna didn't want to fight. But here Krishna is telling him, no, you fight. It's your duty to fight. So then he does. He does fight because he hears Bhagavad Gita from Krishna. So then that is in fact purifying. Working for the satisfaction of God is purifying. So there's no fear of degradation. There need not be any fear of degradation. So Prabhupada is saying, okay, like a merchant also has to say so many lies, but that's his profession. That's how he makes money. That's what he does for a living. And then that merchant, he should be engaged in serving God with the result of his work. That is the important point. So each work has its own things, like Kshatriyas have to be violent, Brahmanas sometimes have to do this this killing of animal sacrifices. Again, it's not recommended in Kali Yuga because we don't have the qualified Brahmanas. And then Prabhupada is pointing out that in third chapter, Krishna explains this. He has further explained that everyone should work for the satisfaction of God, satisfaction of Vishnu. And any work done for the satisfaction of Vishnu becomes a sacrifice. And then there is no karma involved in that work. It becomes a karma. So like this, gradually one can get released from this entanglement of this material world and can get liberation, go back home, back to Godhead. Because work has to be performed. We cannot not work. So God is saying, work according to your nature, work as a matter of duty towards God, and worship God with the result of that work. So this is what here Prabhupada is saying. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. This is a karma, and then this helps us get out of the material. Are there any questions or comments? No, then going on. Sahajam karma kaunteya
सहजम कर्म कौन्तेय
sadosham api na tyaje
सदोषम् अपि न त्यजेत्
sarvarambha hi doshena
सर्वरम्भा हि दोषेण
dhume na dhume nagnir ivavrata.
धूमेनागिरिवावृता I'll read.
Yeah, please read.
Translation. Every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature. O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Purport. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material modes of nature. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, he has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business, or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of his master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire is still considered to be the purest of all elements. If one prefers to give up the work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not he is not assured that in the occupation of a Brahmana there are no unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in winter time one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body. But still, one must make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That that is the that is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self realization.
So we can see that Krishna is not encouraging one to give up one's occupational duty. Rather, Krishna has been saying, God is saying, do your duty based on whatever nature you have acquired. Do that and offer the results to God. Worship God with that result. So worshipping Krishna with the result of whatever duties we have. Duties we have to perform, but we have to understand why we are performing, for who we are performing, and who the result should be offered to. Because one may say, yeah, I have to perform my duty. I have to perform my duty. So yes, we have to perform our duty for God. We have to perform our duty, but offer the result to God. Offer the results to Krishna. Because we understand the first part, I have to do my duty, but who we are doing the duty for? Why should we do our duty? Who should be satisfied with this duty? When we are working for the satisfaction of God, then it becomes a sacrifice. Then whatever work we are doing, whatever duty we are performing, becomes a sacrifice. So here Krishna is saying then that every work, every duty is going to have some fault or the other. But don't give it up. Don't give it up. Still work according to your own nature. Even if it is fault, like for example, the faults we were hearing, Prabhupada is giving some faults like merchant has to lie. He's a very pious person, but he has to say that, oh, I'm not making money. That's how it is. In Brahmana, he's very pious, but he has to, before they would chant this mantras for animal sacrifices. So these things can, or Shudra, he has a bad master, but he still has to listen to what the master is saying. So work should not be given up. It has to be done. One has to do whatever duties are to be done based on our own nature. Krishna is saying, work according to your nature. So then the example given here is fire. Fire is pure, and yet there is smoke. So it doesn't mean because the smoke is there, the fire becomes impure. The fire still remains pure. Yeah, the smoke is like a hindrance, but the fire itself is pure. So, but one should not give up one's own natural duty, thinking, oh, that there are these flaws. Some flaw or the other will be there in any duty we perform. Nothing is perfect. In this material world, there will be some flaw or the other. But one should still work according to one's nature and determined to serve the Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the point we need to understand. Doing our occupational duty to satisfy God. Worshipping God with the result of our work. We are tending to always focus, oh, I have to do my duty, I have to do my duty. Yes, we have to do our duty. But who is to be satisfied by doing this duty? God, for satisfaction of God. That this duty is being given to me by God. Let me do it to the best of my ability for the satisfaction of God. Let me offer the result of my work to worship God. Like we give the example of cooking. Somebody is doing cooking. So offer that food to God and then eat. So offering the result of our activity. Somebody is in business, making money. Offer some portion of it to Krishna conscious activities. So for the propagation of Krishna consciousness. So offering the result of the work to God. And in that way, we can get purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one continues to hear and chant. To be able to do this, one has to continue to hear and chant. Otherwise, we will say, oh, why should I serve God? Why should I serve God? So we need to hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, study the scriptures. We have these books. Prabhupada has given us these wonderful books, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Study the books. Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Work for the satisfaction of Krishna. And then one can get self-realized. This is what we are. This is what Krishna is telling us. Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Asakta buddhi sarvatra.
Jitatma vigata spraha.
Jitatma vigata spraha.
Neshkarmya siddhim paramam.
Neshkarmya siddhim paramam.
Sanyasena digacchati.
Sanyasena adhigacchati. Translation: one who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain, by practice of renunciation, the highest perfection stage of freedom from reaction. Purport: real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the results of his work. Since he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the results of his work must be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. This is actually Krishna consciousness. The person acting in Krishna consciousness is really a sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. By such a mentality, one is satisfied because he is actually acting for the Supreme. Thus, he is not attached to anything material. He becomes accustomed to not taking pleasure in anything beyond the transcendental happiness derived from the service of the Lord. A sannyasi is supposed to be free from the reactions of his past activities, but a person who is in Krishna consciousness automatically attains this perfection without even accepting the so called order of renunciation. This state of mind is called Yoga Rudha, or the perfectional stage of yoga, as confirmed in the third chapter. Yasta Atma Ratir Eva Isyat. One who is satisfied in himself has no fear of any kind of reaction from his activity.
So then Krishna is saying, self-controlled, unattached to the results. That he's working for satisfaction of God. He gets self-realization, freedom from reaction. He's a real renunciate. So renunciation doesn't mean that artificially one gives up one position and says, okay, I'm not going to do anything anymore. But that is not real renunciation. Real renunciation is to understand our position, our constitutional position, that, oh, I am a part and parcel of God, and therefore I have a duty to perform towards God. I have a duty to serve God because I'm a part and parcel of God. So, working in that consciousness. So, whatever work we do, offering the result of that work to God. Understanding that these results don't belong to me, they belong to God. So then one may say, oh, but I can't enjoy the result of my work, then why should I work? I don't want to give up work. I don't want to work anymore. And that will be renunciation in the mode of passion, you know. So that's the reason we need to regularly hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. We need to regularly chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, so that we can be able to do this. So that we can be able to work only for the satisfaction of God. Because what is our tendency is that we want to work for our enjoyment. We say, I'm going to work, I'm going to get this enjoyment out of this. Whereas Krishna is saying, work as a matter of duty. Satisfy God by doing your work. Offer the results of your work to God. And this is real sannyas. This is real renunciation. So renunciation doesn't mean that one stops working, rather working for pleasure of God. Working as a service to God, offering the results of these activities to God. That is real renunciation. This state of mind is called Yoga Rudha, perfectional stage of yoga, because one is completely understood that, oh, I am a part and parcel of God. So I need to act as a duty. It's my duty to serve God. So one acts in that consciousness, offers the results of his work to God, works for the pleasure of God. So it's a very advanced stage. And then how could we, from our stage, rise up to that platform? We need to continuously hear and chant, hear and chant. And when one works in that way, one will be satisfied and will not have any fear because he's working for God. So regularly hearing and chanting for the pleasure of God, hearing and chanting also for the pleasure of God as a matter of duty, that it is the duty. We are spirit souls. So the duty of every spirit soul is to understand, hear and chant the glories of God, understand the position of God. So hearing and chanting for the pleasure of God. And whatever duty we have in society, whatever is our position in society, doing that work for the pleasure of God, doing that duty for the pleasure of God. Is that okay? So we'll stop here for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening.